Let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Justin. I get to be one of the pastors on staff here at Hope Church. And today we are in the second week of our new teaching series called Stay Out. We're taking a look at inviting God into those uncomfortable areas of our lives. Last week, Rick kicked off the series, and he talked through this area of food, which I hope you found challenging. I found it helpful. And then Rick also challenged us to enter into a time of fasting through this series. And so it was a great start to the series. Today, the uncomfortable area we're going to be looking at is our entertainment. And you might say, well, how is entertainment uncomfortable? And I want to take you back in time and think about a time that you sat down on the couch next to your parents and you watched a movie, and something that you knew was inappropriate came up on that screen. Whether you saw something and there was visually something that was there and you shouldn't have seen it, or maybe there was a joke that you knew was like wildly inappropriate that you found funny, but you can't laugh because your parents are right next to you. And what happens? When that comes on the screen or you hear that from your ears, your eyes go like wide open, and then you start tucking your head, and you look down, and then what happened? I know for me, every muscle in my body just tightened up, and I was like, oh my goodness, they know that I saw what they saw. They know that I thought that was fun. And then I was like, I'm breathing. I need to stop breathing, because if I breathe too much, they're really going to know. I can't move an inch. I can't move a muscle right now. And then you just hold on to it, and you're like, you're praying, Jesus, let us just get to that next funny moment so I can release this laughter inside of me. And then it happens. You laugh. You get out of that room as quickly as you possibly can, because it was uncomfortable. And why was it uncomfortable? Because you know. And we're talking through this week today, and I'm like, we already know what makes this uncomfortable. We already know the things that make our entertainment inappropriate or not good for us. We know already. But that's the point, that we've asked God to stay out. We've never invited him into this area of our lives. Now, I want to preface everything that we're going to say. I want you to hear this loud and clear from me. We are not saying as a church that entertainment is bad. I know that there's some people that believe that. I grew up around some people that believe that. Entertainment is not bad. We should delight in the skills and the talents that God has given people. And we can come together and we can laugh around those things. We can enjoy those things together. Entertainment is not bad, but it has to be an area that we invite God into. And as we get going into it, I want you to understand, when we talk entertainment, we're talking all of it. We're talking TV, movies, video games for some of you. I know some of you say, oh, that's not entertainment. Some of you are like, that's all entertainment is. Books, music, podcasts, social media. I don't get it. Some of you love it, right? And anything else, right? Anything that fits into this world, anything online, this all falls under the guise of entertainment. And as we think through our entertainment, here's what I want us to understand really clearly. There is an enemy in this world, and that enemy would love for you to be completely consumed by entertainment. That enemy would love for your mind, for your thinking to be completely altered and manipulated by that entertainment. And so that's where we're going to start. I want you to go, because I want you to see this in John 10. We're only going to be here for a moment, but I want you to see John 10. And these are the words of Jesus. And Jesus says, the thief's purpose, meaning the enemy's purpose, is to steal and kill and destroy. And then Jesus says, my purpose is to give them, to give us, to give you a rich and satisfying life. Some of your versions say life, and life abundantly. But he says the enemy's purpose is to steal. The enemy is going to use entertainment to steal your time. The enemy is going to use entertainment to kill your brain, to kill your thinking, to kill your mind, to turn it into mush. And the enemy can use entertainment, we've seen this happen, to actually destroy relationships. And I know that sounds a little far-fetched for some of you. But I'm telling you, that's a reality for some people. That they have gotten so captivated by certain forms of entertainment. They have been so enthralled by a specific entertainment that it comes at the expense of people in their family or their close friends. But Jesus says, My purpose is to give you a rich and satisfying life. When we delight in the things of God, it adds to our life. Here's how I want us to walk away with this today. That entertainment should contribute to life, not deprive us of the best life. See, when we laugh together, when we look at the things that other people are skilled to do and gifted to do, that should add to our lives. That should be something that contributes to life. But entertainment should never come at this point where it comes at the expense at the things that matter most. It should never rob us of the best life, of the rich and satisfying life. And so, as we think through our entertainment, I want us to ask ourselves these three questions. Whatever your form, whatever your go-to entertainment is it beneficial? Self-explanatory. When whatever it is that you're listening to, when you put your AirPods in, when you are putting the TV on, can you pause and think and just stop for a second and say, is this actually beneficial for me to do it? Maybe it is. Maybe you need that little bit of rest and release. But is it beneficial? Is it wasting time I should spend somewhere else? There's a lot of things that we have to do. There's a lot of things that we're responsible for. There's a lot of relationships that we have that we should be investing in. Is it wasting time that I should spend somewhere else? And then I want you to see this. Is it wasting mental energy I should spend somewhere else? You know, we only have so much time in a day. And we only have so much energy to give. And there are times where we need to be thinking through our goals for the future, where we need to be processing how to problem solve something that we have going on in life. We need to actually think and take time to think towards our relationships and how we can make those relationships the best. But sometimes we waste all of that mental energy by just turning on the TV. Is it wasting mental energy that I should be spending somewhere else? And here's why that matters so much. In Luke 11, this is Jesus speaking, and Jesus says, your eye is like a lamp that provides light for your body. When your eye is healthy, the whole body is filled with light. But when it is unhealthy, your body is filled with darkness. Jesus says it matters what you take in. Now, right here, he's talking about the scriptures. He's saying you should be filling your life with the light of the scriptures. But we can apply this to entertainment. That it matters what we take in. You know, as I was preparing for today, I was reading the American Psychological Association, and they pointed to these different areas of our lives that it matters what we take in. And for example, when we think of violence, how much stuff do we watch that's violent? I know I do at times, right? When we watch violence, it pointed to how not only does it desensitize us to violence, and some of you say, oh, I'm so tired of hearing that, things desensitize us to violence. But this is doctors and actual professionals saying this, right? But not only does it desensitize us, but the more important part is that it normalizes it in our lives. And so it desensitizes, and then it actually normalizes aggression. And so as a result, we become more aggressive because it's become so normal. And then they said the flip side, maybe you don't get more aggressive. Here's what happens to you. You actually become afraid of the world around you. They said it's going to be one or the other. And it's not just violence that this research has proven to, but it's all areas of the content that we take in. That it either creates a normalization or it creates a fear. Jesus says it matters what you take in. Look how Jesus continues. He says, make sure that the light you think you have is not actually darkness. What do we say sometimes? Oh, not me. It doesn't affect me what I watch. It doesn't affect me what I listen. Yes, it does. Yes, it absolutely does. Or this is the one I say. All right, I say this all the time. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, right? No, don't we say that? Because we have to say, we have to justify in some way what it is that we're doing. Jesus says, don't make sure that the light you think you have is not actually darkness. Sometimes we think things are better than they are. And then he goes on, he says, if you are filled with light, then your whole life will be radiant as though a floodlight were filling you with the light. He says, if you are taking in light, you are putting out light. Let's say it like this. Here's what Jesus is saying. What goes in is what comes out. What goes in is what comes out. Let's say that together right here. What goes in is what comes out. Those of you online, let's say it with us. What goes in is what comes out. And you know this is true because this is a very simple sentiment. But you know it's true, and here's how I know it's true, because I have 2 little kids. Well, they're not little anymore. They were little at one point. And you know, what goes in is what comes out. And so there was a time when they were little, and Lindsay and I failed as parents, I'm going to be completely honest, and we were not paying attention to what our kids were watching. And, you know, we didn't have cable or anything like that. We still don't have cable or anything like that. But what we did have was PBS Kids. And how can anything on PBS Kids be bad? It's information, it's learning. And there was this show that our kids would watch sometimes, and it is the most annoying show that ever happened. When I say the name in a little bit, some of you that have kids say, you're going to cringe. It's going to kill you inside. There was this show that our kids would watch. Brace yourself. Caillou. Yeah, right? I know. It was the worst show ever, right? And so if you have never seen the show Caillou, here's what it is. It's this little kid, or he's an old man. You can't tell because he's bald. And so Caillou is this kid, and it's a cartoon, and all he does is complain. And he whines, and he whines, and he whines. And then his parents are soft, and they come and they say, oh, I'm sorry you're whining so much. Let us do everything to make this right. Instead of problem solving with the kid, and instead of teaching them some coping skills, right? All they do is come in, and they just like bend over to his whining. It's the worst thing ever. Well, you know what happened in our house? What goes in is what comes out. And our kids, they were very little at the time, and Lindsay knows, why are they whining all the time? Because what goes in is what comes out. You better believe once we figured that out and we connected those dots, that show was gone, right? Like that was absolutely not happening anymore. But here's the thing. It's not just kids. And we can laugh about it when it's our kids, and we can see it and we can say it's not that serious. But Lindsay and I have seen that happen to ourselves. And we were watching a sitcom, and just like any sitcom, what does the married couple in the sitcom do? They bicker, and they bicker, and they bicker. And there was this sitcom that we would watch, and then at the same time as we're watching this show, what happens? We notice that our bickering is increasing and increasing. And then one day, one of us said something that was similar to how the couple in the show was bickering. Like we just gasped in the moment because we both caught it at the same time. And we're like, this is why we've been bickering so much lately, because what goes in is what comes out. And we enjoyed that show, but we had to make a decision in that moment to say, we got to put the brakes on this. We have to stop because we don't want to bicker all the time. Life's a lot better when we're not bickering all the time. And so let's put the brakes on this for just a little bit. And I know that's hard sometimes because we have friends, we have family, we have coworkers, and what do? They tell you, this is the best show, you have to watch this. This is the greatest thing. This is my favorite artist. Make sure that you're listening to them. But I want you to see what the Apostle Paul says. You might be familiar with this verse. This showed up in our highlight series, so a lot of you should have this highlighted in your Bibles. But here's what the Apostle Paul says. He says, don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but instead let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. What that means is that there are going to be times when everyone else around you is watching a certain show, they're listening to a certain artist, they're going to see a certain movie, and you have to make the choice not to do what everyone else is doing. Here's what Paul's asking us to do. He's asking us to be discerning. Discerning means that we're going to take a look at everything and that we're going to choose based on actually contemplating what's before us. Not just following what everyone else is doing, not just going with the crowd and the flow of things, that we're actually going to discern and we're going to look at this item and this item and this item and we're going to say, is this right for me? Is it not? And I'll tell you what, that stinks sometimes. Because Lindsay and I have friends that, they'll watch something and they'll say, this is the best. And we're going to say, you know what? It might be, but this isn't something with our personalities, with where we are in our faith, that we should be watching. This isn't something that I should be listening to. And you're going to need to make some hard decisions. Paul never said that it was easy to not copy the behaviors and the customs of the world. It's going to be difficult. But at some point, you're going to have to make that decision. You're going to have to think through things in that way, through that lens. I want you to see that King David, made that same decision. So I'm going to ask you, in your Bibles, turn to Psalm 101, if you're not. And as we are getting to Psalm 101, let me take you back in time with King David. You remember that King David got himself into a whole world of trouble by watching something that he shouldn't have been watching, by viewing something when it comes to Bathsheba that he should not have been viewing, that he entered into a form of entertainment that he should have never, and that didn't just create hurt right then in the moment, but a whole string of bad decisions afterwards. And then if you were to fast forward a little bit, you could land at Psalm 51, and what we see is this change, this turn that happens in King David, where he repents of his sin, where he says, hey, I need to change my direction back to God, I need to confess, I need to ask for forgiveness. And now in Psalm 101, as we get to the tail end of King David's life, King David is making this proclamation that he is taking a stand in his life, that he has convictions and he is willing to stand by those convictions. Let's pick up in verse 2. This is King David speaking. He says, I will be careful to live a blameless life. He says, God, when will you come to help me? I will lead a life of integrity in my own home. Now, integrity, blameless, same root word in the original language, but we know what that means, what blameless means. David says, I want to be blameless. I want people to be able to come in and see that there's nothing that I wouldn't do in front of everyone else. And where does he say that it starts? In his own home. See, it's really easy, I think at least, to be blameless in front of other people. When you come to church, it's pretty easy to be blameless at church. It's pretty easy to show up to work and be blameless, because if you're not, you end up getting fired, right? It's easy to be blameless when you go to the family gathering and you don't want to create a stir and you don't want to start all this mess. It's easy to be blameless in these different areas. But David says that doesn't matter. What matters is I want to live a life of integrity. I want to be blameless in my own home. This is where it starts. And then it can filter out to all those areas as true and as real. But he says it has to start in my home. Can you be blameless in your own home, in the privacy of your own home? Isn't that where it's the hardest? The things that you watch, the things that you take in. Can you imagine? This is like David saying, here, take my phone, look through it. You won't find anything. Check my search history. Right? Check my search history. David says, no, in my own home, I'm going to be blameless. You can look at whatever you want. You can go through all my devices. You can go through all my books. You can check any of my stuff. And it's going to be a life of integrity. And look at how he stands by that. Look at these statements that David makes, these strong, strong statements. He says, I will refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar. Remember where David started? That's how he started, right? He was looking at the vile and the vulgar. He says, no, not now. He says, I don't want anything to do with anything like that. He goes on, he says, I hate all who deal crookedly. Remember, he's talking about the integrity of his home. As we think through our entertainment, we think through the entertainers that we welcome into our home. Could you say that? That, hey, the people who are just totally morally misguided, the people who are just crooked, they're not coming into my home. I will have nothing to do with them. And then he says, I will reject perverse ideas and stay away from every evil. I want nothing to do with the perverse. How's that look in your home? Can you say that? And you know what? Maybe you can't. It's okay, because there's always an opportunity to start. But David says, I want nothing to do with this. This will not happen in my own home. You know, in week 4 of the series, Rick is going to talk through some of these perverse feelings that we have, some of the struggles that we have that cause problems in our relationships. So you're not going to want to miss week 4 around it. You don't want to miss week 3 either. That one's good, but you're not going to want to miss week 4. Verse 5, I think, is my favorite of this. Here, look at what David says. He says, I will not tolerate people who slander their neighbors. Think of your social media for just a moment. Don't we see that all the time where people just trash talk one another, where they gossip one another? This is what David's saying. He says, hey, I'm not going to tolerate. He says, when I see someone talk bad about, this is not tolerating. When I see someone talk bad about someone else, unfollow, unfriend, unsubscribe. He says, that's what's going to happen in my home. He says, I don't want to be any part. But what do? I know I've done this. You pull up a chair, you take out the popcorn, and you get ready, because this is juicy, right? This is exciting. This is fun. What's going to happen next? And then when it slows down, you just type in something really quick to stir the pot again, right? And get it going and get these people back at each other. David says, no, not me. And this isn't just people that you know. Right? But how many times do we see people just talk bad about other people? Celebrities talk bad about other celebrities. Politicians talk bad about other politicians. David says, I will not tolerate it. He says, I am done with the people who are conceited, who are filled with pride. He says, this will not happen in my home. And then look at the turn in verse 6. He says, I will search for faithful people to be my companions. The people who point me back to God. The people who are in good standing with God. He says, only those who are above reproach, only the blameless, only the people with integrity will be allowed to serve me. Now, here's something that came across my mind really quick, not to get too far on a tangent, but can you think about how entertainment has flipped since the time of King David to us? If you're thinking through this in the form of entertainment, entertainers served the people who watched the entertainment. But now we're so backwards. Now we serve them, we follow them, we watch their every move, we buy their merch, we pay attention to every single thing that they do, we copy their behaviors, we try and act like they act, we show up at every event that they're at. David says, no, you're inviting these people into your home. These are your servants. He says, only those who are above reproach, only those who are blameless, only those who live lives of integrity will be those entertainers for me. He says, I will not allow deceivers to serve in my house. What about you in your house? Can you speak and stand to these convictions in the way that David did? Can you just pause? And maybe you can't. Again, that's okay. We can begin today. But I want you to think about your home and what's okay in your home and what's that you would allow in your home. Because you are the one that gets to choose what happens in your home. It's yours. And maybe you say, well, I live with my parents or I live with roommates. That's okay. You have a room and you get to choose what happens in your room. And would you declare, in just the way that David declared, that I am not okay with these certain things? They will not happen in my space. They will not happen in my room. They will not happen in my house. Because my house, my room, my space is going to be a space of integrity. It's going to be a space that's blameless. So you can come in at any time and you can look at every single thing that I'm doing. That's what David was able to do. And I'm hoping that you will take a stand for your own home in the same way. But how do we create a life-giving environment? I want to give you just a few ways to do that. Here's the first. You need to pay attention. You need to pay attention to what it is that you're watching, what it is that you're listening to. You need to actually take a look at those things and figure out what it is. Because when it doesn't line up, when it doesn't make sense, you need to be able to be like David and say, not in my house, like that little kid Caillou that I just booted right out of there, right? Like, no, we are not doing this. But it's not going to happen if you don't pay attention. Here's one. I love this one. Time limits on your apps or your devices. Technology has gone so far. It's so good. It's so cool. I love technology. I'm a technology nerd. But one of the best things is the limits on it. And that you can set a limit. And guess what? On my phone, all my social apps have time limits. And it's silly because it's my phone. I have the password to override it, right? But when that alert comes up and says, Justin, you've spent enough time here. What a helpful reminder. It doesn't mean that there's not times where I'm sitting in the waiting room at the doctor's office and I override that and I keep looking and I find a little bit of entertainment while I'm waiting there. But to have that reminder to go off and just say, hey, you've spent too much time here. You've spent too much time here. You've spent too much time. And for me, you're going to hate this. 5 minutes is my time limit on my socials. Why? because that gives me enough time to check in with my family and my close friends. And I don't have to go down the rabbit hole of all the other garbage that's out there. 5 minutes. And then I get to use the rest of the time in my day to actually contribute to the things that I love, that add to my life, that contribute to my life. Here's another one. In your home, to create a life-giving environment, make an effort to engage the people in your home. Don't go off into all separate rooms. Don't do all different things. Make an effort to engage other people. Maybe say, I live alone. That's okay. Instead of watching movie after movie after movie, when you see that coming, make a phone call and say, hey, I don't know you very much, because maybe you're like, I don't have close friends either. Make a friend. Make the effort to make a friend. Call someone up and say, hey, I don't know you that great. Can we spend time? Can I buy you a coffee? Can I hear your story? Can I get to know you a little bit more? And take that time. Make an effort to actually engage with people. You will love it. Here's the last one. Our students love when I bring this one up. Phones out of the bedroom. I know it's not fun. I get it. It's a whole lot easier to keep the phone in the bedroom. But I think it is so worth it. Get the phones out of the bedroom. Because if you can remove the phone from the bedroom and you say, I need it to decompress. I know. Everyone needs to decompress at night. But what if you spent your time decompressing, talking to God, thinking through your day and saying, these are the ways that God has shown up today. And these are the ways that I'm hoping God's going to show up tomorrow. And you think about the things that God's given you. You think about the people that God has given you in your life that you can delight in. And just think through those things and delight in them. Add to your life. Ponder the things of God. Take the time to just spend that time. Married couples. You know, the best decompression, the best conversations that Lindsay and I have ever had is as we're getting ready to go to sleep together, and we just spend that time talking and not on two separate devices. Try it out. I know, like some of you are like, absolutely not. Our students like riot every time I bring this up. Try it out. And don't try it out one day, because it's not going to work if you try it one day. Try it for a period of time to get the phones up. At least put them on the other side of the room. So when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're not taking your phone that we all know stimulates, and we say, why can't I sleep at night? Because I'm looking at this phone and I'm looking through these different things. When you wake up at night and you can't fall back asleep, you know what you can do? Pray. I'm telling you, when you pray, it's like counting sheep, right? Like I pray and I talk to God about all the things that I have going on in life, and I talk to Him about the people I care about and the things I know that are going on, and I fall asleep before I even know it. I fall asleep mid-prayer. When you wake up and you can't sleep, don't turn to the phone. Turn to God in those moments. Let me wrap up here. Here's what the Apostle Paul said. He says, make the most of every opportunity. When you look at your entertainment, let's make the most of every opportunity that we have. With that being said, let me walk us into our next steps. So on the seat in front of you, there is a connection card. You can also use the Church Center app. Those of you viewing online, you can use the Church Center app, and you can access our connection card. Let's walk through these next steps together. Here's the first one. That I find myself captivated by entertainment instead of Jesus. And I will begin a media fast this week to put my relationship with Jesus first. Now, last week, we already said that Rick challenged us to enter into a time of fasting around our food. And here's what we're wondering if you can do. One of two things. For some of you, fasting is not a new practice, and it's something that you can do. And what I'm going to ask, don't kill me. What I'm going to ask is, can you stack your fasts? So can you continue your fast with food? And can you begin a media fast of some sort? Meaning that I'm gonna use no social media this week, or I'm gonna watch no TV this week, or I'm gonna not watch TV at nighttime, or I'm not gonna listen to the podcast that I normally listen to. Would you take a fast from your media, from your entertainment, from the content that we take in so often? Now, some of you, fasting is a new idea, or this last week of fasting food just kicked your butt. And I get it, fasting is hard. No one is saying that fasting isn't hard. And so maybe for you, you need to say, hey, I can't take a media fast. I'm going to continue in my fasting of food. Or maybe you're going to make a shift. And you're going to say, hey, I fasted food this week. It was incredibly difficult. I saw God show up in that. And this week, I'm going to change direction, and I'm going to fast my media. I'm going to fast my entertainment. Would you take that step if that's you? Here's the second thing I'm asking you to do. Here's our second next step. That this week, I will inventory the media I consume and make adjustments to that content as needed. Will you literally just sit down for just a little bit and write it down, put it on your notes app on your phone, and actually write down the things that you watch, the things that you listen to? And then will you look over that list and be reminded of the Apostle Paul's words to not copy and conform to the behaviors of this world? And as you look at that list, be honest with yourself and say, what would God have for me in this? Maybe I get to keep everything that I already watch and everything I do. But maybe there's going to be some things and you're going to say, you know what? For me and where I am, I really shouldn't be watching this right now. I really shouldn't be listening to this right now. Would you make that adjustment as needed? And then lastly, maybe for some of you, entertainment is just not an area of struggle. Maybe it's an area that you've already invited God into. But as we continue through this series, would you say this, that I haven't invited Jesus into every area of my life, but I want to be completely open and surrendered. Pray for me. And our team would love to pray for you. If there is another area of your life that you need to just turn over to Jesus, maybe it's not entertainment. That's okay. But we want to be completely surrendered to Jesus. Let me go ahead and pray for us. Jesus, thank you for the gift of entertainment. Thank you that there is media and content that we can laugh together about, that we can watch with excitement, that we can root on our favorite teams or our kids or whatever that might be. Jesus, we're grateful for how you've supplied that for us, how you've given us the personalities to enjoy that. But Jesus, we're asking that you really would help us to understand that this is just an addition to life. It's not meant to be our entire lives. So help us to see that when that sneaks in. Help us to understand that well. And Jesus, help us to keep you at the focus of our lives. And we pray this in your name. Amen.